What does Bonner's addition now mean for the Fever's title potential?
I think the Indiana Fever, with the addition of DeWanna Bonner after already adding Natasha Howard and Sophie Cunningham, are now in the championship conversation, along with the New York Liberty, the Minnesota Lynx, and the Las Vegas Aces.
Dana Bonner just shook up the WNBA, and her wife, Alyssa Thomas, is not happy about it. Instead of teaming up with Thomas on the Phoenix Mercury, Bonner decided to pack her bags for the Indiana Fever, where she'll join forces with Caitlin Clark.
DeWanna Bonner, while she's in Indianapolis for the Indiana Fever, she will be separated from her wife, well, soon-to-be wife, Alyssa Thomas. They are currently engaged, okay? Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner, for years, have been teammates at the Connecticut Sun.
You're probably asking yourself, what's going on here? Well, we're about to dive into why this move makes the Indiana Fever immediate contenders. And as for Alyssa Thomas? Let's just say she's not taking it too well. Stick with us to see how this power move is shaking up the WNBA. Ready? Let's go.
I know, like, when you go down the list of, like, all the trades and all the moves and everything, it takes you a while to get to DeWanna Bonner, but her going to Indiana is, I mean, with what they now have, they already had they got a team.
Here's the crazy part. Dana Bonner just shook up the WNBA, and it's not just because of her killer crossover. This six-time All-Star had a big decision to make this off-season, and everyone assumed she'd follow her wife, Alyssa Thomas, to Phoenix to chase another championship. Well, turns out, they were wrong.
Okay, that's a lot. Okay, she's going to be in Indiana and Indy, whereas her wife, Alyssa Thomas, will be in Phoenix Mercury. I'm sorry, she'll be a Mercury at Phoenix Mercury, but she'll be in Phoenix, Arizona. Okay, two totally different regions of the U.S., right? So again, it's like the fact that I'm sure that money talked, and Stephanie White is the head coach. I would love to play for Stephanie White. She's an amazing, incredible coach.
She really threw everyone for a loop. She's heading to Indiana instead. But here's where it gets interesting. The Fever haven't been anywhere near the WNBA Finals in years. So, what did Bonner see in Indiana? Let's break it down.
I am ready to proclaim the Indiana Fever as your WNBA champs.
Let's talk about what Dana Bonner brings to the table. She's not just any player. She's a scoring machine with 2 championship rings and a resume that's basically a dream for any team. Standing at 6 feet 4 inches with a wingspan that's downright intimidating, Bonner can guard multiple positions and drain threes like she's playing a game of pop-a shot. In the 2024 season, she averaged 15 points and 6 rebounds per game, shooting over 41% from the field. That kind of consistency? It's the kind that makes coaches sleep easy at night.
DeWanna Bonner adds versatility for them. Coming into this offseason, they needed a stretch 4, a player who could run the floor. They got that in Howard and they got that in Bonner. They also got versatility by signing DeWanna Bonner. Not necessarily the sexiest, biggest name signings, but the pieces they needed to contend for a championship. I think now Indiana is in that championship conversation.
But the stats only tell part of the story. Bonner's been a clutch performer throughout her career, stepping up when the pressure is on. In the 2024 playoffs, she dropped 37 points over 2 games against the Fever and took on the tough task of guarding Caitlin Clark. Talk about making a statement. She must have impressed the Fever's management so much, they thought, if you can't beat her, sign her.
In DeWanna Bonner, the Indiana Fever have signed one of the all-time greats who brings major big game experience to Indiana along with her. Bonner is a 2-time WNBA champion and quite literally the most experienced postseason player ever. Her 87 playoff games are more than any player in WNBA history.
Now, imagine being Alyssa Thomas right now. Your wife just chose to play with the Indiana Phenom instead of teaming up with you. That's got to sting, probably more than anything else. Thomas is probably at home, rewatching game tape and wondering what could have been if Bonner had joined her in Phoenix.
But Bonner is still playing at a very high level. She is a 6-time All-Star, making the All-Star team in each of her last 2 seasons, and has gotten MVP votes in 6 different seasons, including last year. Her length makes her a major weapon on both ends of the floor, allowing her to get shots off regardless of how tight the defense is and finish in tight quarters inside. Her game is multi-dimensional. She's knocked down more than 600 threes in her career, but she's also very effective as a driver, a slasher, and a passer.
But Bonner's decision isn't just about basketball, it's about buying into a vision, even if it means stepping out of her comfort zone. And let's be honest, playing alongside Caitlin Clark? That's a pretty sweet opportunity. Yeah, that Caitlin Clark, the one who's been breaking records and ankles ever since she stepped on the court. Bonner's always respected Clark's game, and now she gets to experience it up close and personal.
What was the reason for putting you on Caitlin? Usually, Dejanay guards her.
Just game planning, trying to come up with a strategy. They beat us last time, so we had to do something different. Yeah, that was about it. It was nothing behind it. They got 2 great guards, so somebody got to step up and play defense. And I mean, that's the only way to beat them. So just took on the challenge, and she's a great player. I know next game she's going to come out firing. So got to go back, watch some video and see what we can do. But there was nothing behind it. I mean, that's the only way we can win, honestly.
But the Fever aren't just getting Bonner. They've been making moves like a chess grandmaster on espresso. Natasha Howard, Sophie Cunningham, and Sydney Coulson are all joining the squad. It's like the Fever are building their own basketball Avengers, with Caitlin Clark as their Captain America and Bonner as the sharpshooting Black Widow.
You've been asked to do something today that you haven't done all season. Guard Caitlin Clark. She's 0 for 3 when you're defending her. How have you made your presence felt there?
Well, let me knock on some wood real quick. She's a great player. I know she's going to come out second half ready to go, so I got a key in.
So why did Dana Bonner really choose the Fever over playing with her wife? Sure, teaming up with Caitlin Clark is a big draw, but there's more to it. Bonner's reuniting with her former coach, Stephanie White. It's like getting the band back together, but this time with a chart-topping lead singer in Clark. The Fever aren't content being the WNBA's underdogs anymore. They're building something special, and Bonner wants to be part of it from the start. It's like she took one look at the Fever's blueprint and thought, yeah, I can see myself in that penthouse suite.
And while Bonner has never played for the Fever before, she'll come to Indiana with plenty of connections thanks to her time in Connecticut, where she played 2 seasons under Fever head coach Stephanie White, assistant coach Austin Kelly, and player development coach Keith Porter. With Bonner, the Fever can now boast a starting lineup where all 5 players are also all-stars.
Speaking of comfort zones, let's talk about how Alyssa Thomas is handling this news. Spoiler alert, not well. Thomas, known for her fierce competitiveness, must feel like she just lost the biggest game of her life, and in a way, she has. Her wife chose to play with the very player Thomas has been trying to shut down. That's got to sting like a betrayal of cosmic proportions. Remember when your best friend ditched you for the cool kids table? Now imagine that, but on a WNBA scale. Alyssa isn't just dealing with a teammate leaving, she's watching her wife team up with her biggest rival. And trust me, it's not a pretty sight.
DeWanna hopes to go head-to-head against Alyssa on the court.
If I make it, I'm going crazy.
Alyssa Thomas and Dana Bonner have been more than just teammates on the Connecticut Sun. They've been partners in crime, both on and off the court, racking up wins and building a life together. They were supposed to be the power couple of Phoenix, ready to take the WNBA by storm. But sometimes, life throws you a curveball that even the best athletes can't dodge. Instead of suiting up next to Thomas in Phoenix, Bonner's packing her bags for Indiana. And waiting for her there? None other than Caitlin Clark, the phenom who's been living rent-free in Thomas's head all season. Remember that tweet, even before Clark played her first game in the WNBA? Talk about adding insult to injury. Oh, and don't forget the shoulder block heard round the world.
Take another look here at the heavy contact. A little bit of a shoulder there. Not a little bit, a lot of a shoulder.
We all know Alyssa Thomas is intense. She's the kind of player who treats every possession like it's Game 7 of the finals. But this has taken her usual fire and turned it into a full-blown supernova of emotions. Thomas didn't waste any time letting the world know how she felt. In a social media post that had fans buzzing, she shared that the conversation about Bonner going to Indiana wasn't an easy one, but she completely understands and respects the decision. You could almost feel the hurt in her words.
Does she want to go with her fiance, her wife, to Phoenix, Alyssa Thomas? The answer is no. She could have gone back to Phoenix, okay, where she played for many years, but instead, she goes to the Indiana Fever, who have now, just like that, of course, have Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, re-signed Kelsey Mitchell, got Natasha Howard and all of her playoff and championship expertise, and now DeWanna Bonner joins the Fever as well. And instantly, every weakness that Fever team had last year has been fixed.
You've got to wonder what's going through Alyssa Thomas's mind. Is she more upset about losing a stellar teammate, or is it the fact that her wife chose a different team? Maybe it's a bit of both? After all, Thomas once said, "We have a unique connection on and off the court that I cherish." Now, that connection is being tested in a way she never saw coming. But here's the thing about Thomas, she's always been the type to channel her frustrations into her gameplay. Remember all those times she turned a bad call into a scoring run? Now, she's got enough fuel to power a rocket to Mars. The rest of the league better watch out, because an Alyssa Thomas with something to prove is a force of nature.
When we were watching that playoff round with the Fever and the Sun in the first round of the W playoffs, one of the storylines or talking points was the lack of experience versus inexperience. I mean, the Sun were the most experienced playoff team in the playoffs between Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner and all the people that they had there. And the Fever were, of course, the most inexperienced. And right away, that changes and shifts.
This whole situation isn't just about basketball, it's about feeling betrayed by the person you trust most. It's about watching your plans fall apart while your rival gets stronger. For Thomas, this is personal in a way that goes beyond the game itself. So, while Thomas is busy turning her practice shots into stress relief, let's talk about what this means for the Fever. And trust me, it's huge. They're not just adding a talented player in Bonner, they're getting someone who knows exactly how to get under Thomas's skin. In the world of professional sports, that kind of psychological edge can be just as valuable as any stat line.
I think right away, and it's not hyperbole to say, the Fever became one of the best 4 teams, from being one of the best 8 teams to one of the best 4 teams, period, in the WNBA. So my question to you, Gary, which I think I already know the answer to, is, do you really see this being is this a Fever dream? Is this for real? Will the Fever win
100%.
the champion? So you're skipping, let's just win one playoff game and going right to the championship.
Remember when the Indiana Fever were the punchline of every WNBA joke? Well, guess what? They're not laughing anymore. In fact, they might just have the last laugh this season. The Fever have gone from zero to hero faster than you can say championship contender, and the whole league is buzzing. Let's take a step back for a second. Just 2 seasons ago, the Fever were the team everyone loved to beat. Now, they're looking like a super team in the making. Oh wait, they asterisk a super team. It's like they've pulled off the basketball equivalent of turning water into wine. But before we start planning the championship parade, there's a catch, and it's a big one. Can a mashup of superstars really come together as a cohesive team in time for the season opener?
You mentioned what they were missing, which was a lot of things, both tangible and intangible, size, depth, and experience. They checked every single one of those boxes, and that's just the 5 who are going to be on the court. They're getting a coach, so I'm thinking DeWanna Bonner chose Indiana just as much for the prospect and the allure of playing with Caitlin Clark. Right there, equivalent to that is playing with a coach in a system that she had success with in Connecticut, and Steph White going from Connecticut to Indiana.
The Fever's front office has been working overtime, and their off-season moves are nothing short of spectacular. They've kept their dynamic backcoat intact by re-signing Kelsey Mitchell, making sure she'll be there to complement Caitlin Clark's shooting and court vision. But they didn't stop there. They also added Natasha Howard, Sophie Cunningham, and Sydney Coulson to the mix. And now, with Dana Bonner on board, the Fever have a starting lineup that could give any team serious nightmares.
Bonner has also scored the 2nd most playoff points of all time and is 3rd all time in playoff rebounding. Currently 5 shy of Tamika Catchings for 2nd. Bonner is the 4th all-time leading scorer in WNBA history, and in her first game with the Fever, will likely move into 3rd all-time. She's currently just 6 points behind Tina Thompson for 3rd on the all-time scoring charts. And speaking of Tina Thompson, she'll likely pass her on the all-time rebounding leaderboards in her first game with the Fever, too. Bonner is 9th all-time in rebounding, just 3 shy of 8th place Thompson.
But it's not just about collecting talent. Bonner brings something that can't be measured in stats alone: championship experience. She's played in an incredible 87 playoff games, the most in WNBA history. That's 87 games full of high-pressure situations, clutch performances, and learning how to win when it counts. For a young team that's been more familiar with the draft lottery than the playoffs, that kind of experience is priceless. WNBA analyst Gary Starowski nailed it when he pointed out that the Fever have addressed their past weaknesses. They've added depth and a wealth of experience. It's like they've gone from driving a beat-up jalopy to cruising in a luxury sports car.
I like everything about this. Now you have established veteran pieces that aren't just, those bench coaches who are going to give you a couple. No, these are like tangible points, tangible box score fillers. And I didn't call anything last year, but I was high on the Fever last season making a deep run, and they almost proved me right. So there's nothing that the Fever have done to make me think counter to that.
You've got to wonder, how does this shift the balance of power in the WNBA? The Aces, Lynx, and Liberty better watch their backs, because the Fever aren't just building a team, they're creating a winning culture. And Bonner might just be the final piece of the puzzle. But let's pump the brakes for a second. History has shown us that new super teams in the WNBA don't always hit the ground running. It takes time to build chemistry, figure out who's taking the last shot, and understand each other's strengths and weaknesses. The Fever's mix of experienced veterans and young talent puts them in a great position, but they'll need to gel quickly if they want to make a serious run this season.
Fit is the most important thing. You got to have somebody that can run up and down the floor and catch those passes Caitlin's going to be throwing.
One thing's for sure, the fans are all in on this. And let's not forget about the Caitlin Clark factor. Her star power is so bright, it's attracting veteran players like moths to a flame. Bonner herself has expressed excitement about joining a team with such promising talent and a strong commitment to winning. It's like Clark has a basketball Midas touch, everything she's involved with seems to turn to gold. So, how good can the Indiana Fever be with their new additions? On paper, they look like title contenders, but we all know games aren't won on paper. The real test will come when they hit the court. If they can bring all this talent together and make it work as a cohesive unit, the sky's the limit. We could be looking at a team that goes from basement dwellers to championship contenders in the blink of an eye.
I think we have a common goal. I think our visions are aligned. I think the way we go about our work is aligned, and it's consistent. And you're going to have consistency, and you need consistency.
While the Fever are gearing up for a title run, fans are having a blast with this whole situation, and trust me, it's hilarious. Social media is blowing up with memes, jokes, and hot takes. Some fans are already planning parade routes, while others are waiting to see if this super team experiment will actually work. You know what? The Indiana Fever just flipped the WNBA on its head. Caitlin Clark's rookie season was already big news, but adding Dana Bonner to the mix? That's like throwing gasoline on a fire that was already burning bright. And let's be real, while Alyssa Thomas is probably stewing in Phoenix, the rest of us are counting down the days until the 2025 season tips off.
Your current team has made some interesting moves the last few days. How do you feel about what your roster suddenly looks like?
I'm excited. Obviously, we made some great moves. I think, Kelly and Amber and the whole, Fever organization are, they're helping us win now. And I think that's really important. I think they're putting really good pieces together that are gonna, complement each other really, really well.
Caitlin Clark is all in on the Fever's moves. She said, Kelly and Amber and the whole Fever organization are helping us win now, and I think that's really important. This isn't just about building for the future anymore. The Fever are making waves right now and they're not hiding it. So, are you ready for what's coming? Because when Clark and Bonner hit the court together, it's going to be something special. The 2025 season can't come soon enough, and when it does, you better believe it's going to be wild. Do you agree? Let us know in the comments, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we'll see you in the next one.